केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो पतवारा हुआ रे, केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबां केसरी।
Hello, good evening. Thank you very much for joining us here on Times Now. This is the Newshour Special Edition this Saturday evening, and I'm Hina Gambhir. Viewers, after a few days of strikes on Iran, US President Donald Trump have thundered. Iran's air defense capabilities were decimated, including its anti-aircraft defenses. Later, he claimed United States of America completely dominates Iranian skies. His team members made it seem that flying over Iranian airspace for US planes was like a walk in the park. Then, on Wednesday, US President Donald Trump told the nation that Iran's radar was 100% annihilated and that America was unstoppable as a military force. On day 36 of the war, these assertions have come into question, and the man who claimed victory is searching for his missing airman. In a war, he said he he felt that was already over. Why? Because US air power is having rough days. Let me list what has transpired in the last 48 hours. Viewers, an American F-15E Strike Eagle from the 494th Expeditionary Fighter Squadron has been shot down by Iran over Iran. A crew member of the twin-seater jet is still missing in Iran. The F-15E wasn't on a routine patrol. It was on a deep penetration strike into southwestern Iran, well inside the hostile territory, with mountainous, layered defenses all over. As per reports, American Special Forces rescued the pilot, but the weapons systems officer is missing. On Wednesday, Donald Trump vowed to bomb Iranian targets hard enough to send them back to the Stone Ages where they belong. Today, America is asking Iran to follow Geneva Convention if its crew member is captured. Next, it was an A-10 Warthog that was out on a rescue mission. Pilot ejected safely, but the plane crashed over Kuwait after taking heavy damage. Then 2 helicopters were hit, wounding the crew members. Both landed safely. An MQ-9 Reaper was destroyed. In fact, on 19th of March, you will recall an Iranian loitering missile hit the invisible and invincible US F-35 stealth jet. Neither the White House nor the Pentagon released any information about these warplanes. White House Press Secretary has now said US President Donald Trump has been briefed about it. In fact, Trump, in an interview, has claimed that F-15 loss will affect negotiations with Iran. Iran, meanwhile, has announced a reward for capturing the American pilot. Speaker of Iranian Parliament has mocked Trump, saying after defeating Iran 37 times in a row, this brilliant no-strategy war they started has been downgraded from regime change to, hey, can anyone find our pilots? The rescue operation for US is going to be risky. And if Iran finds the American airman, and if he is paraded, then that is going to be serious humiliation for Trump, both in the US and abroad. It will provide Tehran with a prisoner of war, a bargaining chip, a triumphant Iranian embassy. In fact, trolled Trump through a post on X that you can see on your screens right now. It said, "Trump, please talk. We are bored." So tonight, in the first part of the Newshour Special Edition this Saturday evening, we ask, has Iran shattered the US air dominance claim? If Iran still controls it, can Trump keep a ground invasion of Iran on the operations table? And what will be the impact of all of this? Joining us on the broadcast is retired Group Captain Dr Augustine Vinod. We have with us Sushant Sareen, who is Senior Fellow ORF. We also have with us a Middle East expert, Aaron Eitan Meyer, we have Sierra Claire, foreign policy analyst. Also joining us is Peter Kuznick, author and professor of history and director of the Nuclear Studies Institute at American Universities. Good evening to all of you. Thank you very much for joining us here on the broadcast. Aaron, let me begin this discussion with you. I mean, what is your understanding of what has happened the last 24 hours specifically? Has Iran shattered the US air dominance claim completely?
I don't believe so. I think it's important to understand first, air dominance is not as simple as nothing can ever happen. That's a fallacy. What we have is still tremendous air dominance, but it's not perfect. There was actually a wonderful quote by a retired general, General de Tula, and he said, listen, what distinguishes modern Western air power is not invulnerability. It's the ability to function and keep your losses to an absolute minimum. It's a mistake to believe that we could ever be 100% at any point. So I'm not even going to say, let's keep in mind that these are two older aircraft that were hit, an F-15E and an A-10 that was supposed to be retired and scrapped more than 12 years ago. That's beside the point. The fact is there is no such thing as a perfect mission, even under these circumstances. The United States still controls the skies over Iran, make no mistake, and this could actually backfire tremendously against the regime beyond that.
In what way, Sushant Sareen, do you think this can really backfire? Because right now we are seeing a situation wherein an American airman is still perhaps somewhere in Iran. Iran is searching for that airman. America is also looking for him.
No, Hannah, I don't think it can really backfire. Let us assume, look, one, the guy might be in hiding. It is entirely possible that he has been given sanctuary by local dissidents, and he could still be rescued. We don't know that. Or he could be captured. Now, let us assume the worst case scenario from the American viewpoint, that the pilot is captured. What are the Iranians going to do? They can't do a summary execution. He's a prisoner of war in a manner of speaking. I think the Iranians will lose a lot of sympathy worldwide if they were to do anything untoward toward the pilot. So yeah, they will use him, they will parade him around, they will try and interrogate him and do whatever else they will do. But I don't think they will cause any major bodily harm to him. But the fact that they have a pilot is not going to change the course of the war. Okay. What will change the course of the war is what goes on in Donald Trump's head. But if he stays the course of the war, look, this is not the first time the Americans have lost pilots or their pilots have gotten captured. They've been fighting wars over the last, over 80 years since the Second World War in a number of theaters. A number of their planes have been brought down. A number of their pilots have gone into captivity. These are not countries which are wallflowers which will wilt because the pilot has been captured. That doesn't mean that the Americans are not bothered about it. They will, of course, bring all the kinds of pressure they can bring. But will that change the course of the war? I don't think so. Okay. What the course of the war is going to be, I don't know. I don't think anybody knows.
Even Trump does not know. Isn't it, Group Captain Dr. M.J. Augustine? Even Trump is not clear as to what is it that he really wants to achieve from this particular war? Because when he talks about complete annihilation, when he uses words like the capabilities of Iran have been obliterated, decimated, I mean, these are powerful words. But then you also have reports suggesting that Iran is also hitting back. Iran is retaliating perhaps in equal measure. I mean, Iranians, the way Iranians have hit back, it also indicates that the capabilities still exist.
Yeah, Ivan, thank you for having me over and taking a leaf from both of these gentlemen's opening statement. And to some extent, I must give it to Trump, because he's not a military man, so he doesn't know the choice of words. When you say control of air, you have three. It could be English semantics, but to make people understand, you categorize them broadly into three categories. Favorable air situation is when you have a favorable air situation, and air superiority, slightly better than favorable air situation. and air supremacy. And what Trump indicated was air supremacy. I would, declare or bring it one ladder lower to say USA enjoys a large amount of air superiority for simple reason. Look at the place where these aeroplanes have gone down. Now, logical question for you to ask is, how have they reached there? They've reached there penetrating certain air defenses, isn't it? That means to reach there, they did not face any opposition. They have freely reached there. And you saw that video where a C-130 at low level carrying out air-to-air refueling of 2 helicopters. It cannot happen if you do not control the air where this air-to-air refueling is happening. Which needs to be understood very clearly. So fair amount of air superiority or air control exists in that region where these activities could take place.
I completely agree with you on that part, because nobody is really questioning the dominance, the superiority that America really has as far as this war is concerned. And, the arsenal that America really carries right now, with which it really enters into, any war. I'm talking about Iran's capabilities. Are we underestimating that?
Clearly, and see, we need to understand 2 things very clearly. One, Trump is not America, and Trump does not necessarily represent the complete capability and the thought process of America. A. B, have they underestimated? Absolutely they have, because there are passive systems. Passive systems cannot be, geographically located, whether it is infrared passive systems or comment-related passive systems like a Vera-E, which Czechoslovakia make, incidentally, even the Pakistanis have it. So passive systems neither can be geographically located nor can be taken out. So existence of passive system makes Iran that much more potent, that much more silent, and probably passive systems have brought these aeroplanes down. Or could it be, my question is, could it be a chance, because they were flying so low, could it be a chance infrared missile, on top of somebody's shoulder, sitting on a hillock, brought these aeroplanes down? These are all possibilities. But the most important thing for us to understand is Iran is not a pushover or walkover as Trump is making his population believe and the world believe. It is not. Clearly it is not. And we can see it on the screen. The very big embarrassment. The Eagle Claw costed Jimmy Carter his presidency. Will this Operation Snafu cost, Trump his presidency is the question mark. Over to you, Anna. Okay.
Sierra Claire, what are your thoughts? Do you think what has happened in the last 24 hours specifically, going by the claims that have been made by Iran that they have managed to shoot down 2 warplanes of the United States of America, 2 pilots are reportedly safe, 1 airman is missing. Do you think this can be a turning point as far as this war is concerned? Can we be anywhere close to seeing the end of this war now?
Well, as the general just pointed out, or the group captain just pointed out, one of the most likely scenarios of how this happened would be somebody who was actually on the ground, launching anti-aircraft weapons, because we've taken out so much of the Iranian anti-aircraft system. And the reason that happened, and the reason that the United States Department of War most likely anticipated this possibility, is because this phase in the war that we're now in, where we have achieved the air superiority and we're going after, much more precise targets, the altitude is actually getting lower for the planes that are flying. And so I don't think this is an embarrassment. I don't think this is something that is really affecting Trump or the Department of War very much. Of course, they want to find the pilot. We are, very concerned about that, and we have the search and rescue operations underway. But I don't think that they were all that surprised by this, because this is the phase of the war that we're in, and the risks have increased in this phase.
Okay, stay on with us because there is another important aspect that we would like to discuss tonight. The US Air Force, viewers, may have lost assets, but its aggression against Iran is continuing. Today, the area around Iran's Bushehr nuclear power plant was attacked for the 4th time. Now, as per Iran's Atomic Energy, one of the plant's physical protection employees, and we'll get those visuals also out for you in just a bit, one of the plant's physical protection employees was killed in the attack. No word has come in from US or Israel, but Iran's foreign minister has warned that Israel and US have bombed Bushehr plant 4 times now. Radioactive fallout will end life in GCC capitals, not Tehran. Attacks on petrochemicals also convey real objectives. Trump, meanwhile, said 2 days ago, you will recall, viewers, that bridges next, then electric power plants. In fact, today, IAEA chief has expressed deep concern over reported 4th attack on Iran's Bushehr nuclear power plant. The IAEA Director General also reiterated a call for maximum military restraint to avoid risk of a nuclear accident. So we want to ask tonight in this part 2 of the debate, is the specter of a nuclear crisis visible in the Middle East? And how is Iran likely to react if pushed against the wall? Peter Kuznick, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are that it's very, very reckless and dangerous for the U.S. and Israel to hit the Bushehr nuclear power plant in Iran, as it was reckless and dangerous for Iran to strike Dimona with its missiles. If the Iranians hit Dimona with a volley of missiles and drones and rockets and pierce the containment vessel over Israel's nuclear arsenal and waste there and reactors, large parts of Israel are going to be uninhabitable for decades, possibly thousands of years. And the same thing if Israel or the U.S. hits the Bushehr plant. And to make things even worse, besides that degree of craziness and recklessness, what I've been warning about is that Donald Trump, in this illegal, immoral war, and in everything else he's done, has broken every custom, tradition, norm, and taboo, as well as international law and U.S. law, except for one taboo, and that's the nuclear taboo. We saw what happened when Netanyahu was telling him at Mar-a-Lago on December 29th and 30th that all these American presidents were opposed to Iran, but you're the only one who's got the courage to break the taboo and go to war with Iran. You're going to go down as the greatest president in American history. Of course, it's the opposite of the reality. But they're going to use that same logic. The Hegseths, the Stephen Millers, the Rupert Murdochs, Netanyahu. What I really worry about is that the U.S. will use a nuclear weapon in this war. And Donald Trump is desperate. The U.S. is in a very difficult position. Yes, we can blow up Iran. We're doing that. We've blown up more than 730 schools and educational institutes. We've blown up their hospitals. We blew up their biggest bridge. We've got that capability. At what we saw in Vietnam, the U.S. won every battle and it lost the war. So we've got unhinged leaders, incompetent leaders like the Hegseth and Trump, and we don't know where this is going to go as they get more and more desperate. That's why this war has got to be ended diplomatically as quickly as possible, and that's why so many around the world are seeing this, and it's being condemned by the Pope, by Guterres, by leaders around the world. This is not, as Modi said, this is not a time for war. Right? We need to begin to resolve things diplomatically, including this, including, and the Iranians have been willing in the past to give up their highly enriched uranium. They did it in 2015. They agreed with the Omani foreign minister to do it again. But the U.S. wanted a war, and look what we've got now. It's just a mess.
Sushant Sareen, now going by what Peter Kuznick has said, where is the zero rules and literally no guilt war heading towards, in your opinion? Do you see, an end anytime soon? The world clearly has been pushed to a crisis.
Yes, and I believe the crisis is only going to deepen because this war doesn't come to an end anytime soon. And even if you were to imagine that just tomorrow this war comes to an end, a ceasefire announced, it doesn't solve anything. It doesn't really solve the issue for which the war was prosecuted from the American and the Israeli side. It does not solve the dilemma of now the Arab states in the Persian Gulf, along the Persian Gulf, and it doesn't solve Iran's problems. So what does it solve? So you will have a kind of a very tenuous kind of a ceasefire, if at all. I don't see how you can have any kind of a deal right now under the current circumstances, which means that either this region remains severely destabilized for the foreseeable future, or you have an Iran which capitulates and is so weak that it, in its own way, becomes a destabilizing force, or you have an Iran which becomes the regional hegemon, which is not something which will be acceptable to the other countries in the region, and there will be a resistance to that. So what you're looking at is a complete breakdown of whatever security framework there was in the region, howsoever fragile that might have been, but it nevertheless was there, and there was some kind of an understanding, some kind of an unstable equilibrium had been reached out there. That's broken down. So what you're looking at is a complete mess going forward, and it might not have made any difference to the rest of the world, except for the fact that if 25-30% of the global energy sources are located in this region, and they are badly disrupted and will remain disrupted for the foreseeable future, by which I don't mean a couple of weeks, a couple of months, but perhaps even if this war continues, then maybe a couple of years.
Okay.
That means that you're looking at a very, very deep crisis which is still unfolding. Its horrors are still not visible to us right now, but they will start hitting various countries around the world, destabilize them because of economic and other pressures. So yeah, it's a mess. It's a complete mess.
Absolutely. And Aaron, you understand the Middle East really well. Iran, we know, has lived with sanctions and attacks for decades. Its capability to absorb pain is quite high. So in your opinion, what is it that, that could really bring this war to an end? What could be the contours of a win that Trump perhaps can really settle for, given the current circumstances?
Well, I believe, as I've always believed, that the key to this war is not going to be the United States. It's not going to be Israel. It's not even going to be the Gulf countries. It's going to be the people within Iran who have been controlled and suppressed for so long. It's not getting much attention. The various Ahwazi forces in the southwest have been attacking IRGC bases. The Baloch in the southeast have been attacking Basij and IRGC bases. The Kurds have not yet fully deployed, but that could happen based on their own time frame. The Azeri and the Turkmen also in the north. These are people who have suffered horrifically at Iran's hands and continue to do so. As the playing field is leveled, they are emboldened, and these are not weak entities. These are tribes and more. These are millions upon millions of people who have been waiting 47 years, waiting 100 years for the chance to finally strike back and make a case for their own freedom. So that's a critical part of this. In the past, Iran was able to deploy along what it used to call its axis of resistance, right? They had a geographical bridge that spanned from Iraq through Syria to Lebanon. They could have Hezbollah come, and they have done that to suppress certain protests back in 2019, just to give one example. That's no longer an option. So the playing field has already been leveled on a number of ways, but I believe the final blow is not simply going to coming from outside. I think it has to come from within. And that's not even talking about the millions of extremely frustrated Iranians who have been taken to the streets in Tehran only to be mowed down. Let's not forget the tens of thousands that have been slaughtered in the streets by the regime. All of that is still at a very, very high pitch. And I believe that is going to prove to be the breaking point, so long as the United States and Israel don't abandon the field for their own reasons.
I think that's an important point you've made, and we leave it there. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us here on this debate. We'll, of course, be tracking every development very, very closely ahead, as well as far as the ongoing West Asia war is concerned. For now, thank you very much, all of you, for joining us.
The Newshour Special Edition.